So we have lots of fun questions. We're going to do about 45 minutes or so of me asking these awesome authors questions, and then I'll open it up to the audience, and we'll pass out some mics, and you guys can answer or ask those burning questions that you all have. All right, so we're here to talk about all things romance, right? And I just want to know why romance. And what I mean by that is some of you focus on subgenres as like romantasy, sci-fi, contemporary romance, but at its center, it all focuses on romance. Why? What drew you to this genre? Why did you choose to write in this? Whoever wants to start first again.
I feel like I always talk a lot, and I was looking at Kenney like you did. But for me, I will say why romance, because everything's a love story in my mind. Be it a love story of a couple or a person and their dog, love is something we all relate to. Even if it's with aliens or billionaires, it's like, yeah, I'm into this. And I think that connecting factor is why we do it, because it's the heartbeat of life to me.
What she said.
Are we all answering? Okay, if you feel so inclined, then yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, love, because I don't want to write about war.
That's such a good answer.
I'm lonely. You're literally married. I think it's really fun to have a really bad guy fall in love with a really nice girl, and they kiss a lot. See, end.
I feel like romance is about hope, right? So for me, that's the main thing, because the genre needs a happy ending. Yes, it does. And so I love writing those happy endings and the smut. That's the other
I would have to say that I write romance because in some ways it's fantasy wish fulfillment. You can have a different boyfriend every month and you don't have to cook for him, you don't have to clean for him, you don't have to do his laundry. I mean, you don't have to do those things anyway, but you know, after a while in a relationship, you start to get comfortable and then he doesn't pick up his socks anymore. Like, you can write people who do not do that. And regardless of like, whether you're writing sapphic romance or gay romance, like you can write the perfect person every time. They don't have to have problems. I mean, they can have problems, but usually you're not going to write the annoying ones. You're not going to put him down the fact that he never puts the toilet seat down, or you're not going to write that your partner refuses to clean the kitchen. I mean, you're going to put stuff in there that you want. So, like, I just get to write my fantasy over and over again, and it can be different every time.
So I actually did write a book where the dude wouldn't clean the kitchen. He was so irritating. So short answer is I wrote my first book on a bet, so that's why romance. But I keep writing romance because falling in love is embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. Like if you look back on the text messages of when you first started dating somebody, you're like, oh my God, who am I? So I think I stick with romance because it is so embarrassing. And you can explore the absurdity of reality in romance, whereas you can't really do that like with murder books. You know, like, that's not absurd, that's death. And romance, how we just all behave in these really super absurd ways, I just love that. That's why I stay with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like that kind of gives you insight into you.
Well, I mean, basically what they all said, but also I think that, you know, romance is, it's a very, it's a language that a lot of us try to learn how to speak, and I think that when you write it, you get to learn a lot about yourself. For me, I've learned so much about my own insecurities, my own, like my own fears, my own worries, and gotten to figure out like what actually love means to me. And I also, I like romance because it's not just about love between the couple, which obviously is the main source of the plot in the book, but you also talk about love with friends and love with family. And you know, the central theme of the book is acceptance and friendship. friendship and love, and I think that's why I like a lot of found family, because I also believe that, like, you know, there's always that saying, blood is thicker than water, but it's really amazing how thick the water can be when they become your family. So, you know, I think that, like, love in general, like romance in general, allows you to just stay in this place where, like, you feel safe and seen. So that's really why I just keep going there, because I just want a world of safety, and I can create that in my own.
That's beautiful. And you kind of actually segue into the next question. Because in romance, sometimes we'll find interconnected standalones where we explore different characters that we're meeting, or sometimes an author decides, hey, I really was endeared to this character, they deserve their own story. So I guess, what makes the character stand out to you when you're writing that you decide that you want to continue with their story, or do you already have that mapped out from the get-go?
Okay, fine, I'll take it.
We're all like,
And then I go like this. So I write mostly series, and so I think it was Sarah Simone, she said that she, in terms of like a pantster or a plotter, she calls herself a panty liner. I call myself a chastity belt, because when I map out my series, they're incredibly detailed. I actually use like a media wiki, and it's a relational database, and I know like when the town was founded, and so I nerd out in that way. And because I do so much planning ahead of time, I already know what the characters who I'm going to be writing about for that series, what their dysfunction is before I even start the book. So I guess my characters start with dysfunction. That's how I know I want to write for them, is because they're dysfunctional. And isn't that wonderful that, like, if more people wanted to be interested in dysfunctional people, I know I would be batting down interviews all the time. But then for my standalones, those I write off the cuff. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And if you read my series, versus you read my standalones, and you're like, this sounds like this was written by two different people, it's because it was.
I am a pantser, which it means that I know where I'm going to start, and I know how it ends. I mean, other than the happily ever after. I usually have a scene envisioned, like for a YA book that I wrote for my daughter. Like, this was something I did on special request. I wrote a book where she set down all the parameters. I want a soulful emo boy who can play the guitar. I want a lot of angst, and I want the heroine to basically be me. She was 15, and I wrote that book for her, and she wanted it to end at prom. And I was like, okay, so this is the book I'm going to write. It's going to be all about music and angst and like trauma and whatever. And we actually sold it. You can read it if you want. It's called Like Never and Always. So I have those things mapped out. The rest I figure it out as I go. And sometimes I do try to outline when I get to the middle. But when I say outline, I really mean like, you know, in this chapter there will be kissing, which is not really very detailed. And actually sometimes I'm even wrong about that. Like, oh no, they're not kissing, they're fighting a werewolf. Okay, well that's all right. And I just constantly keep updating, and I just keep pushing until the scene A that I started with meets the scene Z that I had in my head, and everything else is just kind of up in the air.
So for me, usually my books, and I'm also a pantser, you know, I don't plan things out very well. So for me, it usually starts with a dynamic that I want to do, or like a concept, and I don't really know the characters that well ahead of time, and they kind of grow into themselves as I'm going, and then usually I have to go back to the beginning and make them more consistent throughout. So it's like, oh, I want to write The Great Gatsby about vampires, and I don't know anything about, you know, I kind of have the archetypes of the characters from the original, sure, but, or like I want to write a thing where the dragon captures the princess, and then she's super annoying to him so that he'll let her go, you know, hoping he'll let her go. And then I don't know much about their backstories, and so I have to kind of like learn about them as I go along, so, yeah.
I hyperfixate a lot, and usually, so I hyperfixated and I became a hobby mycologist, and then I wrote a book about a biologist falling down a fairy ring of mushrooms, landing on a hot bay prince, because I thought, gosh, that'd be really fun. a dream. And yeah, so I kind of I like memes a lot, so I'll see like a meme and be like, oh my gosh, but what if he accidentally murdered her? Or what if it starts like that? But I go back and forth between pantsing. I'm not a very good planner, but similar to kind of what they were saying with kissing in this scene, and you know, add more tension here or something, but usually it's just pure vibes.
Absolutely. I'm running on bags. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm going to write until I'm in the middle of writing it. And I think in order for me to like pursue a character that I want to write, I know that character is worth writing if I'd be sad if they died. And so I know that they're like tugging on my heartstrings in some kind of a way, whether they're funny or they're hot or whatever. If I would be sad if they died, then I know that that character is worth putting in a book. And I don't know, where you can't.
You just wear a lot of pants when you're writing.
I was like,
It's like you fly by the seat of your pants when you're
Okay,
writing. So
okay.
no outline and you're just.
yeah, then I'm that for sure.
So I'm kind of like a mix of all of it. It's really funny. I'm a hardcore pantser when it comes to the actual story. Like I have no clue kind of where we're gonna get to. I know that obviously we'll get to the end, but I don't necessarily know what is going to be. So I usually know just a little bit about them, and that's it. And then I'm like, okay, here we go. And one of my friends actually described it as like she watches when she's a plotter, so she watches the movie first and then like knows exactly what's gonna happen, whereas I'm watching the movie with you at the same time. So it's like a totally different mindset. Like she knows the entire movie, all the plots, all the stories, all the scenes, and I'm over here like, let's play and let's go. And that's the difference in like, to me, a plotter and a pantser. And I thought that was actually like a really, really good analogy. And I was like, oh, now that makes sense. But for me, the one thing I will say is like for my series, how I know who, I write a lot of interconnected standalones that are within the series. And I write a lot of families and I write a lot of best friend groups. So for me, it's really easy to know who's gonna get a story because it's like, all right, what's this friend group look like? Oh, there's 4 brothers. All 4 brothers are gonna get a book. Except I know I'm very sorry I screwed you once, but like typically if it's a family, they you know that's kind of where it spurs for me. And like with my last series, like this one, they all play on a team together, so the whole team got so that's what I think it is for most, like for when you're sitting with a series and you know you're going to write an interconnected standalone series, like you kind of have to know who might get a book, and someone might surprise you and get an add-on, and sometimes you're going to be like, I wish they were dead, and I'm not writing a book. So that's kind of, it sucks because like when you're telling your readers there's going to be 4 books, and then you're like, just kidding. And they died, but it's fine. So yeah, no, I think that's how I approach it. Is I'm like, okay, these people, this group is interesting enough, and I will make them interesting as I keep going enough for me to want to write them. But I love yours that it would be sad if they died.
Yeah, for me, I like to say I'm a hot mess author, but maybe when I started, but now I'm like lukewarm. So I'm a lukewarm mess. But I will start plotting if it's a series, because I've learned the first time I did a series, I forget characters' names, and they're like, wasn't his eyes blue? I'm like, no. And it's always my sister who calls me out because she reads them. She's like, what did you do to Katie? I'm like, who's Katie? So it's a struggle, but now I've learned to plot and write out, okay, blue eyes, green eyes, and it's easier when you have a map. My map changes and the pieces move, but if I know who the main 3 are, like I wrote a series, the Problem series, it's 3 sisters. I know Willow's a wild, free, hippie girl. I don't know what her story is, but I know she's gonna have one. So as I'm writing the other books, I learned who she is too along the way. And so it's kind of like the movie thing. I'm meeting them as they're meeting me, and we write this script together.
Yeah.
Different approaches, but at the end of the day, we all get a book at the end. And we also learn that if Jeneane doesn't like a character, she kills them. Okay, so this one is more towards the authors that write alien, monster, and non-human love interests. So my contemporary authors, just give me a second, I'll circle back. But how does your approach change if you're writing, if you're not writing about humans? And then also, what's the rewarding part about exploring the inhuman.
Can I go? There are different parts that you can invent and know what I'm talking about. So yes, like if you have a dragon, you can make that however you want. Like, you know, you can have it do all kinds of interesting things if I get, you know what I'm talking about. And for my dragon books, I made them become shifters for the first time in the book. So they're like, they've been dragons all along. And so they're in human form for the first time. And they're like, what is this? Like I feel different. Everything feels different. Everything's so much bigger than it felt when I was a dragon. Oh, it's so fun. And then she has to, like, the human that he captured, has to, like, help him through the process of learning how to deal with this new human body and how that all works. So it's just so much fun.
Okay, I'm gonna be real about this. I just really like writing weird sex. Like, the standard type of hotness is just not it for me anymore. I want it to be as weird and as unusual, to like test the bonds of your imagination. I wrote a book called Strange Love, and it's probably my best known alien romance. I mean, I do have a new alien romance coming out, so I hope it's gonna like top up there too if people are into that. But in Strange Love, I had so many readers come to me saying, girl, I do not know how you made that hot. That should not have been hot. I'm confused as to why I found that hot. And like another person was like, you know, he doesn't even have a dick. Why is this hot? And then other people were like, oh, she's writing a trans allegory. And I'm like, honestly, I was trying to be weird, but I am totally fine if people take it as a trans allegory. Like, I'm good with that. And if it like pushes acceptance, if it makes people go, you know what, he doesn't have to have a dick, that was still hot. I enjoyed it, I liked it. It was weird, but I'm into it. So if that's the kind of thing you like, you should definitely check me out.
I'm in the same boat, kind of, I think, as Anne. I like writing weird shit, weird sex, weird anything really, but I also like a challenge. So I think when I write specifically, especially if I'm writing a sex scene and it's with like,
It's too late now. I've already done it.
if I'm writing a sex scene, I like to think, how can I make this weird thing that's happening hot? And then I like to think, I like to just go with my first idea. Like, I'll just be like, you know what would be fun? If his bum could solidify. You know what else would be fun? If he put it in there. You know what else would be fun? If he could make it remotely vibrate. That would be fun. And you know what else you should do? Fuck his dad. So that's why honest romance is fun. There are no rules, you make up the rules, and I don't like playing by the rules, so.
In all seriousness, I consider myself like a baby monster sci-fi enjoyer, and I recommend that you give it a try. You might surprise yourself. Okay, so for those of you who are maybe more contemporary focused, we'll bring it back. What drew you to contemporary, and how do you breathe new life into what can be considered the mundane realities of our existence?
Kenney.
How do you make contemporary fun? Could you repeat the question? I guess it's just like, contemporary is the real world. You make it interesting.
As vampires?
Okay, we know. Okay, so how do you take the real world and make it not suck? That's what I heard. Other people
Yeah.
So you have to ignore some realities, which I recommend doing in your own life as well. So you have to ignore some realities, and in order for, in this particular genre, hopefully we can all be on the same page, that when you read a romance novel, you want to be entertained, and you want to enjoy yourself, whatever that means for you. So if you include in romance, and I think this is why so many people, now I'm just going to philosophize, whatever, you stick with me. But I think we can all truths. I mean, raise your hand. That's my case. So you have to ignore a lot of reality, even in contemporary. So that does bring the fantastical element. I was tempted just to say weird sex, because that didn't go over really well earlier. But that's not actually true. The sex in my book is not weird. The other thing that makes it weird, however, is that I do draw attention to the absurdity of sex. So, for example, I wrote a book called 10 Trends to Seduce Your Best Friend, and in the book, they both lack experience, they're both virgins, and she gives and he receives his first, are we allowed to say blowjob? Can I say that? And so, as she does it, after it's over, she's like, that was the worst. And so that's, I think, what I'm trying to say is you ignore reality, but also bringing reality in during certain moments that are either poignant or you're like, girl, I relate, right? And then how to work through that in a healthy way. Again, relationships that are healthy, maybe not so focused in reality, but being able to talk through it and show healthy relationships and how they work and how they can be entertaining and enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the mundane part of it is part of why people want to come to, it's a comfort feel, right? Like when you know when you're going to go to a small town or you're going to go to a contemporary book that you're going to be able to put yourself in it because, I don't know, I haven't had dragons do all kinds of weird shit to me. So like, I mean, I might later, but I think that those, most of the readers that I talk to that read contemporary romance, they want to feel comfort and in a world that is mundane and in a world that is scary. And I 100% agree, we ignore so much of what's going on. I don't know very many of my friends, at least, that are writing any of the things that have transpired over the last 10 years. Like, we just don't talk about it. It's almost like Bruno, right? Like, we don't talk about it. And so I think that there's a level of when we're writing contemporary, we're saying to you, like, this is the world it could be. And we're gonna hopefully give you entertainment, laughter, friendship, family, and a sense of security. So I don't know that like that really answers the question.
No, it does. It does. And I'm gonna backtrack because maybe this didn't come off well. When I say mundane, I don't mean like I think contemporary is boring. I think contemporary, like all romance genres, have a point and a purpose, and they can serve readers in different ways. Like sometimes you need to see someone like you going through what you've been through to connect to a story, to give you hope, to give you levity, right?
100%.
So just wanted to make that. So you're right on the money.
Yeah, like I think it's creating safety for the reader. That's my hope always, is that whoever reads it will find a sense of safety, that they know that we got your back.
I actually think, I have written contemporary in the past, and I actually think it's not so much ignoring reality so much as it is writing aspirational books. For me, what I am doing is intentionally creating a world where everyone is allowed to have the same rights and the same freedoms, and they're happy. Like, they are allowed to be happy. Everything doesn't have to become an issue. Like, you're allowed to be whoever you are, whoever that is. So for me, that's an intentional choice. Like, I have friends who are like, you know, I don't want to read another coming out book for the rest of my life. I want to read books about happy people just being gay and living their life. So for me, it's aspirational as well.
Yeah, and I will say for me, a lot of people are like, I read to escape the world, but I write to help heal the world. So I write about very heavy topics sometimes, about grief, about losing people you love, but the hope on the other side of that. Because I think a lot of times as a society, we're very lonely. And sometimes you can feel like your depression is just you, and you see everyone else around you thriving, and you're like, why can't I heal? And so when I approach my books, it's for the people who are struggling, for the hope that even if you're in the middle of your story, you can still get the happily ever after. So when I go into my stories, I'm like, okay, we're not going to escape the hard, but I'm going to be a weighted blanket for you. I'm going to hold your hand, and at the end, my hope is you feel healed, you feel like you can look at life and say, hey, I'm not broken, I'm just human, and that's how I tackle it.
These are really like you to self-reflect in a positive way. But what is your favorite thing about your writing?
I'll actually go first. I think because I've been published for 12 years now, and my favorite thing about writing, I was talking to Kenney about it. I started when I was 26, and I feel like my frontal lobe wasn't fully there. So when I started writing, I didn't know who I was. So I was putting myself out there, and as I was finding me, readers were, and it was like, oh no, but, and they learned me to be one thing. So my favorite thing now is I get to learn who I am and write what I write and hope people come along with it. But the freedom of creativity is something I've been loving in my late 30s, like being who I am and being proud and allowing myself to exist.
So I think the thing that I like, and I also hate, is that I don't know how to put this, but I'm going to be honest with y'all, maybe TMI, is that it appears that the themes I cover in my book and the characters I cover in my book are universal. And so I will get emails from people all over the world, and I literally mean all over the world, like Qatar and India and Germany and all over the world, saying, that character is me. And I guess it gives me hope that we're all just kind of struggling through this human condition, and we're all so much more alike than we think we are. And we have this tendency as a society or as human beings, or whatever you want to call it, to other different people who live geographically separate from us or have look different from us, or maybe support the Seahawks, that kind of thing. Or the Dallas, what are they, Cowboys? But fundamentally, we all want the same thing. And so getting these emails from people who don't look like me, don't speak my language as their first language, and have a completely different experience, emailing me and saying, your character is me, I am that person, how did you know? I thought I was alone. I hate it and I love it. I hate it because it feels like a big responsibility, but I love it because it gives me a lot of hope for humanity.
My earlier series were very, very, I talked a little bit about how I feel like I explored myself in those early books especially. So for me, the thing I love the most is kind of similar in that I wrote about things that were very traumatic in my life, whether it be my relationship with my parents or my marriage or having children, not being able to, whatever it was that I was writing about in those books. And I think that the thing that I love the most is that I was able to go as deep as I was able to go and feel it and still come out okay at the end, I think, kind of, and B, it's the reaction. The biggest joy for me has been when somebody comes up and says, I lost a child and this book helped me feel okay at the end of it. Like I cried, I wasn't okay during it, I really hated you, but now we're friends again and you got me through this. And I think that those are moments that like every writer dreams of, that we touch somebody so deeply that they either felt the need, that they felt the desire to send an email or send me a DM or tell me about it, or when we come up to signings and the girls start crying. Like those are moments that I think for me have been the most rewarding. And even when sometimes you're sitting down and you're about to go to a really hard place and you're gonna have to dig deep and stay there for a bit, that there's a reason why you're doing that, because somebody somewhere needs that moment for themselves. And I think that that's really like goosebumps. I just think that that's really like a big moment that gives me joy and keeps me going.
In that same vein, I really agree with what you're saying there. I think like writing books especially is like can be such an isolating experience, but you're actually not doing it alone at all. You're writing it for people, possibly thousands of people that are going to read it, which is a really interesting experience. And for me personally, I mean, I literally have one book out. So like, and it's erotica. So like, which is fine, but I think what I've experienced not as, maybe not as meaningful as someone saying, hey, I can relate to this really dark, hard life experience. However, one thing that I'm passionate about and one thing that I love about what I do is I just get a lot of women who are like, thank you for normalizing sex, thank you for creating a character who is unashamed of having sex, pursues having sex. These are just things that we as women are not taught how to do, or we're taught to feel shame about it, or we're just, it's not ingrained in us by society or by anybody that we should be kind of seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake. And so I think, for me personally, it's meaningful when I have a reader or anybody say, thank you for that specific representation. I think you never know, you may be writing monster erotica, but you just never know who you're going to impact in a positive way. No matter what you write, you're speaking to somebody.
I know this is going to come as a surprise, but I was called weird as a kid. And I love the sames. This is actually back to what I was going to say. Selfishly, mine's not quite as generous. The sense of community is one of my very favorite things about writing. And believe it or not, I got told I had a very overactive imagination. Suck it now. So I think it's just so fun too. I've never had such a sense of community, and when my Infatuated Fae series came out, so many people came out and were like, writing the same thing, and they're like, I love moss too. And I'm like, I love moss. Let's go to the forest. I'm like, are you gonna hurt me? No. But yeah, so it's just been so cool to like find other people that, when you've grown up thinking that you were like such an oddball or something like that, and then you like find your people and you're like, oh, all right, well, we can all be cool together. So that's my favorite thing about it.
So for me, it's also, I've had the same type of messages where it's like, this book helped me through a time where I was ill and I couldn't do anything but read, and, it meant something to me. Or, I was grieving and I felt for this character who just lost, someone. And, but for me personally, one of the best parts of writing is that I tend to get very depressed when I'm not writing. For me, I kind of need it. And it's like, the work just feeds me and keeps me sane. I guess it lets me express my unhingedness, but no, like it really does legitimately help with my anxiety and my depression, and just, I feel like writing is so good for your mind, like, and your emotions. Like, even if you're not writing for your work to be consumed by a lot of people, even if you're just writing for yourself, like in a journal or something, it can be so therapeutic and so helpful. And so for me, I'm doing it for both. I'm doing it for the story, but I'm also doing it for my own mental health.
I actually have a writer friend who said if I didn't write, I would have to pay for therapy. So I think this is probably quite common among people who write, that they just put it on the page to express it or to purge it. The fun thing about going last is I got to hear like 3 of my answers being spoken. So you get to hear the 4th choice. Obviously the community is important, and touching people's lives is important, and mental health is important. Those were my first 3. So what I'm left with is, I first sold to Ace Publishing in New York in 2007, and I've been writing professionally since then. I feel incredibly fortunate to still be doing what I love almost 20 years later. I feel so grateful and so fortunate that readers are still giving me a chance, that readers are still finding my books and enjoying my books, and I just feel incredibly lucky that I get to work from home in my pajamas while eating peanut butter with Straube.
You guys got to reflect, and also as readers, it's also nice to know like what's going on in the minds of the authors that we're reading. Why do they like to write? What do they feel when they're writing? I think it, it adds to the enhancement of the story when you feel be as distant as you want, but those moments of, oh, this is a human being with thoughts and emotions and, you know, goes to the grocery store just like all of us, it just adds to the magic of it all, I think. So I'll take a step back and give you a little moment of rebrief so you don't have to be so deep for just a second. But if you had to compare like a movie or a TV show as a comp title to any of your books, do you have one in mind that you'd like to share?
Oh, I do. Okay. Alice in Wonderland. Okay.
We actually are pitching my new title that I'll be signing today. It's called I Think I'm in Love with an Alien. And we are pitching it to readers as Resident Alien meets Galaxy Quest. So I hear some interest. I will be here, Rebecca, if you would like to come and see this.
I'm just gonna say I'm so excited to be like up here with her because I read her series like that starts with Enclave, the young adult series. Loved it, brought it with me for her to sign. Anyway. So for Beautiful Villain, I feel like it's pretty obvious. It's Gatsby / The Vampire Diaries. Like if you mix those together, yeah. So it's fine.
I don't know. So I write small town, but then I also write found family in big city. So I guess for the small town, it's like Ted Lasso meets Duck Dynasty. And then percolate with that. And then for the found family, like big city, I would say it's like when Harry met Sally. What's that song? You're like, yeah, I know that song. Okay. When Harry meets Sally meets, geez Louise, maybe like K-drama? So when Harry met Sally meets K-drama. Yeah, let's go with that because I like the reaction.
Oh, guys, I literally have no idea. My book is about a girl.
National Geographic.
Yeah.
Like nailed it first time.
That's good. Yeah.
How about Hunger Games meets National Geographic? Hunger Games because, well, I graduated now, so I would say
Mine's probably like, I write small town. A lot of things, they are not Duck Dynasty, I would say. Mine goes more, I would probably say like Sweet Home Alabama, or like Heart of Dixie. That's like probably my vibe. It's like that small town, like super fun, like all the people all up in each other's business, and everybody's got an opinion on everything, and yeah, that's kind of right. And then they like don't like each other, but they are in love with each other, and there's all that funness. So yeah.
Oh man, that was fun. For my small town, the Problem series, I was gonna say Heart of Dixie meets Gilmore Girls, but black. It's a series about 3 black sisters falling in love, multicultural, very Heart of Dixie on the bill. And then my newest one, If You Stayed, I would say, if you've seen the movie The Vow, where she forgets her memory, and if you stayed, he loses his memory, second chance romance, and yeah.
Thank you. You guys painted some very vivid pictures. Comparisons. Okay, so this will be the last question for me before we pass it off, but what's next in the pipeline? So you can either talk about, an upcoming book, or if you really just want to talk about what's, about to hit the shelves, you can let us know. But shout out your books.
I'll go first because I'm excited. So I wrote a Christmas book called The Holidays, and I am doing a follow-up Christmas story called A Merry Little Christmas. Her name is Mary Little. I know it's so gross. But I'm super excited about it. It's a snowed in romance of enemies to lovers, and I'm very, very excited for that one.
So I'm finishing up the Amber Falls series, so the next book comes out in June 24th, I think. So All Too Well's out, and then Here and Now comes out after that, and then there'll be more books. So I'm finished writing that series, so right now I'm writing a new series that I can't tell anybody about, but I'm obsessed with it. So I'm like enjoying every single minute. Like I haven't had this feeling. I took a month off because I was like not mentally great. So I took May off, and now I'm back at it in June 1st, and I'm actually like so freaking excited that I'm back, because now it feels like fresh and exciting, because like now it's a new series, so I get to like move on. So yeah, I didn't have to like tell anybody or anything about it. It's like great.
As some of you know, I have one book out, Kiss of the Basilisk, and the sequel to that is coming out in November, called Between Two Things. After that, the prequel to that series is coming out, or as I like to call it, Caston's book, because it's mostly from his point of view. I know there's some Caston girlies out there, I don't know what's wrong with you, but that's fine. And then after that, so that'll be all in that universe for a while, not forever, but for a while. And then I'm trying right now to pitch a trilogy, and it's about an angel that sneaks down from heaven to hell and falls in love with the devil. And then one other idea, which is a dystopian romance, where men are born in jail and have to earn their way out. We're trying to sell it over right now.
Tell us who needs email.
I don't really know what I'm allowed to say or not, but they gave me this microphone and stuff, so I'm here celebrating the 4th book in the Infatuated Face series. So I may or may not be working on a 4-book series called The Dark Manor Chronicles as Gothic Retellings. So you didn't hear that from me. So yeah, and I'm really excited about it. The end.
So I have, so there's the Gatsby book, and then there's the Dorian Gray retelling in my series. Beautiful Villain, Charming Devil, and then the third one is Ruthless Devotion, and that is a Wuthering Heights retelling. And it's Southern Gothic with necromancers and banshees and like rival families. And I'm so excited. And when your editor tells you that this is your best one yet, then you like, yes, I did something. So I'm very excited. That comes out in July. And yeah, so I have art. If you stop by my area, I have art of Heathcliff. So yes.
Very excited about those myself. You already know that I'll be signing I think I'm in love with Brittainy today. It is out early, so if you stop by, you will be one of the first people to actually hold it in your hands. It's not officially out until the 17th. So if you enjoy bragging rights and showing off, you are definitely going to want to come and see me. I also have bookmarks and some cool stuff for you. I can tell you what I'm working on because it is announced officially. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with my Fix It Witches series. But the spin-off from that, The Only Purple House in Town, I am writing a sequel, and I'm writing, oh, yay, thank you. I am writing the sequel now. It's called Mudge's Guide to Mischievous Magic. It is set entirely in fairy. It is about Thea, who was swapped with Iris, and who was raised in fairy instead of the real world, and she is a psychic vampire. So if that's the kind of thing you like, look for that in 2026. Thank you. I love you all. We love you too.
So I'm about to turn in the first book in a new family series, the Franklin 500 Farm series. Siblings, like 7, well actually 6 that you know of. A series that I've always wanted to write, like the secret sibling, you know, anyway, I'm very excited about that. Okay, so that's about to go to the editor. And then the other book I'm writing right now is a twist on it's the third trilogy in a hypothesis series. It's called Fundamentals of Biology. So it's elements of chemistry, laws of physics, fundamentals of biology. A bit of a nerd, because you have to pick that one. And it's a twist on the marriage, contract marriage, which I don't know if you know this. If I can take any trope and make it completely absurd, I'm better if one person is adopted. So she's adopted by him, and she's older than him. And that's what it's about.
Well, lots to look forward to.